Last night I was watching the movie called Our Little Secret. Here's the plot. After discovering their significant others or siblings, two resentful exes must spend Christmas under one roof hiding their romantic history. This is a story with Lindsay Lohan on Netflix. It's a Christmas movie. It's a romantic sort of story with a lot of confusion and a lot of distractions and a lot of whatever. The whole thing is kind of a mess. So Lindsay Lohan was on my mind when I was looking at the Gemini full moon for 2024 on December 15th coming up here, our final full moon in 2024. And she was on my mind and I thought, oh, this reminds me of another movie. She's in The Parent Trap. In The Parent Trap, she plays two kids. They're identical twins, even though they're both her. And they're hating each other and they are at summer camp. I don't know why they hate each other. I think because they look too much alike. I don't know. So they go into punishment, which is to be in the same tent together. In the meantime, they find out that they're actually sisters and they have never met the other parent. They decide they're going to swap places. That's what's going on here in this full moon. So it's a little bit of a confusion. Jupiter is in Mercury sign and Mercury is in Jupiter sign, and they're in an opposition to each other with the full moon. So Mercury is now in this big dreamer section of the chart in Sagittarius, and it kind of wants to exaggerate every detail. And Jupiter is trying to keep up with rapid fire Gemini, and it wants to spin every little detail into a big story. So there's a lot of craziness going on, just like both of those Lindsay Lohan movies. A lot of bold claims, a lot of confused logic, a lot of things that look like one thing, but actually something else is going on. Yeah, and it takes a while for people to figure it out in both movies, in The Parent Trap and Our Little Secret. People thinking they know something when in reality they don't actually know it. That's the vibe going on. Mutual reception, what does that mean? It means that the two planets that we're talking about are in each other's sign at the same time. They can communicate to each other some helpful advice on how to survive their home space. They can give clues how to behave and how to make the most of their journey. So like in The Parent Trap, they call each other on the phone and the one kid in California is like, yeah, that's the name of the butler and this is where we go to tea or whatever. And the other kid's like, okay, this is the name of my horse. Something like that. Whenever the moon is in Gemini in general, it's a time of fast thinking, clever communication, exciting feelings of discovery, curiosity, stuff like that. But this time, it's a full moon and it's not quite all fun and games because in this face-off, which is the sun and the moon, obviously, they're also forming a T-square with Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces and that's the planet of dreams, illusions, the fog. According to astrologer Ren Butler, who wrote The Archetypal Universe, which is really great book, he says that this energy can create confusion, disorientation, and a longing inside of us. It's a feeling of being caught between two worlds, trying to figure out what's real and what is just a mirage. So one thing that could be happening as new things come out, new realities come to the surface, that you may be doubting your own choices. You're doubting your intuition at times, or realizing that you might have been under some false assumption this whole time. This brings me to an artist I just learned about. His name is Thomas Denninger. I think that's how you say his name. And he's a master of illusion. It is incredible what this guy can do with discarded materials. He makes these beautiful natural looking creatures, and when you change your perspective, like when you're looking straight on it, it looks like the literal bird or fish or whatever. But when you move to the side, you start to see it's a 3D model kind of thing made up of all these little bits and bobs of trash, basically. In an article that I read that I'll link in the description below, it says, Denninger views obstacles as opportunities for innovation, creating art that evokes a range of emotions. So that's kind of another visual for this experience of the full moon with the square to Neptune. Like it might look like a bird, but when you really start to see what is building this bird, it's a bunch of stuff that you might not have realized at first, like getting all those details and then having to re-piece them back together into a bigger picture. It's kind of the same thing as this mutual reception going on. Mercury in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Gemini. It's very much like these art pieces, I think. With the moon and sun both squaring that hard aspect to Neptune, clarity is kind of hard to come by at this time. There could be miscommunications, just be ready for that. People might promise more than they can deliver, or facts, quote unquote facts, might be twisted to form or fit a narrative. You might misinterpret someone's intentions or over-idealize a situation, think it's better than it is, or feel like later on you realize you're maybe disillusioned by it. Anyway, all that to say that this is not the time to make big, life-altering decisions necessarily, or believe everything you hear. Like, really go to the source, that source material, as much as you can during this time. Okay, there is a plot twist here. I've been talking about the retrograde and the mutual reception and the planets being all foggy and all that jazz, but here's what is kind of cool. The same day, Mercury stations direct, which means it appears to be standing still in its spot on the same day as the full moon in Gemini. So this has been a few weeks of delays, crossed wires, technology snafus, miscommunications, difficulties in that way. But Mercury's direct motion, it's like a reset for the mental clarity. Okay, stationing days though are kind of weird. So it just adds to the weirdness of this full moon. It's like waking up from a confused dream or feeling like that space, that liminal space between sleep and awake. The good news is if you've been waiting on an answer or waiting on even an answer inside yourself, you might start to finally get the resolution there. But because Neptune is involved with that square aspect to the full moon, the answer you receive might feel a little bit murky at first. So give yourself space to process before you make any bold moves or big decisions. Kind of pulling out from this full moon to the bigger picture, something that's coming into the focus is the Jupiter-Saturn square, which is going to perfect on December 24th, 2024. That aspect's bringing some tension, some contraction. It's the friction between these two planets of optimism and realism, building that into each other, belief and facts. Jupiter wants to dream big, and Saturn is like, okay, cool, you got a cool dream there, but there's some limits and there may be some consequences. So let's look at the whole thing. Let's look at the whole picture. But Jupiter coming in Gemini, it's like maybe it gets a little confused because there's too many details. And Saturn over there in Pisces, I've been saying this for a while now. Saturn in Pisces is like, peace, bro. It's like the chillest version of Saturn ever. So I think it can bring something from the nether, right? That space that's in between, and bring some stardust, basically. Let's bring some stardust to it, where you might be able to see a little more clearly because of this Saturn. In the story of December that I shared with you earlier, Jack and Emma's story, this is the point where they were about to have their big community event and the storm shuts it all down. And they have to figure it out. They have to go with those limitations and still move forward with their dream. It's kind of like that. You got to get creative. That's where Saturn comes in. It's like, okay, you're going to be limited, but I'm going to offer you creativity from Pisces and keep the celebration going. If this full moon feels like being caught in a whirlwind of your thoughts, your ideas, or maybe there's a lot of misunderstanding, confusion, limitations, all that stuff building into it, like you're deciphering some weird riddle or trying to figure out a Lindsay Lohan movie or something like that, here are 5 ways that you can stay grounded during this time. Number 1, stay curious, but be skeptical a little bit. Mercury and Jupiter have swapped spots and they're swapping roles. So it's easy to get swept up in the exaggeration. And if stories are too good to be true, then just fact check it. If it's too horrible to be true as well, fact check it. Go to the source as much as possible. Number 2 is pause before you speak or decide. Neptune's influence means that we're not really seeing things super clearly. There's a little bit of nebulousness, a little bit of fog. So big promises, bold claims, impulsive decisions, they're just risky right now. So be careful. If you can delay your response a little bit, a few days at least, so you can process it, let the fog clear first before you move forward. Number 3, expect the unexpected. Mercury's stationing direct. It's kind of like a sudden U-turn because it's a real switch in the energy. So things might feel like they're moving in one direction and then new information comes and it changes the course. So just be flexible during this period for the next few days. Number 4, watch out for burnout. This mad buzz, the Gemini full moon, can feel like too much coffee and not enough sleep. So not a good combo for feeling like relaxed and chill. So don't overbook your schedule if possible. Try to leave space for a walk or going outside, and rest as much as you can. Doing is important, but so is processing. This is a processing time. Number 5, don't forget Jupiter and Saturn. This is the beginning of it, so we're ramping into it. The Jupiter-Saturn square is going to tighten up, and you might feel a little bit torn and between chasing your big dreams and feeling the reality or the limits. Time and space both have value, and the goal is to find balance. And I think the stardust is coming from Saturn in this one, to be honest. The confusion is coming from Jupiter this time. So what's the takeaway here? What's the takeaway? Well, this full moon is full of contradictions, but it's about holding those contradictions with grace, giving space to logic and intuition, to certainty and doubt, to dreams and reality. All of that happening all at the same time. You may feel pulled to make everything make sense right away, but the message of this full moon is to just let some things stay unresolved for now. Mercury is shifting from reverse to forward motion, so there is a sense of progress on the horizon. So all this stuff I'm saying is it's not forever. I'm just saying give yourself a little bit of space, a little bit of time within the week or so around the full moon. I was trying to think about what I could say here at the end about, the Parent Trap and some lesson that you can, use or whatever. And the other movie, Lindsay Lohan, Our Little Secret. But, truthfully, that's just a bunch of confusion. You think about it, it's just a bunch of illusions and confusions. And honestly, that's just how life is sometimes. At the end of this year, we have a really fantastic Capricorn new moon, which is gonna solidify everything. And then Chiron goes direct. So I don't know, just let this be whatever it is at this time, and understand everything moves forward eventually. I like you just the way you are. Have a beautiful full moon in Gemini. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you next time.